Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. And how do you do? That's right. It's Edwina B, Miss Cuckoo for Cocoa Pops. Morning conversation with me. I am so glad to see you. And I'm so glad that you have decided to join me because you did have a choice. Were you looking for me at 6:30? Well, I was in a I don't feel like getting up kind of mood this morning, right? But that spirit said you better get your butt up because I got something for you to do and something for you to say to change the life of one more of my children. So get up, Edwina, rise. And I give him the honor, the praise, the glory, the hallelujah, the worship, and most importantly, the acknowledgement. Huh? The acknowledgement, not that he needs it, and I mean, I believe he wants it, but he knows what we need and he knows the desires of our heart. But what are we willing to give back to him? Just acknowledgement to seek his will, and he will give us the strength, the courage, and the power to carry it out as long as we seek him. I did that 34 plus years ago underneath that parked car, suffering from co-occurring disorder of mental illness and substance abuse. As an alcoholic, a prostitute, right, a crackhead, the whole gamut that goes with any and all addictions and mental illness. So I thank God that He met me, delivered me, and prepared me from underneath that parked car to sit before you here today. He also touched the life of the late Dr. Benjamin Twin Brown that I shared about yesterday. August the 7th was his birthday. And because you see that folding hand on the opening page, that's Twin Brown's hand, and mine is inside of his saying, Edwina, you are now the new face of Community Communications Corporation. So allow me to give another acknowledgement for the late Dr. Benjamin Twin Brown for Community Communications Corporation and the Spiritual Revival Hour, where we provided songs of inspiration, consolation, meditation, and more importantly, education. And I'll be doing that as well. We are relaunching Community Communications Corporations, known as CCC. It will be called CCC 28. And we haven't decided which airway we're going to be launching it on, but God has already worked it out. We want to thank Sammy Congo for housing us at the new Wisdom Center over there by the Legacy Center in North Wilmington, for allowing us space to set up our station, our workshop, our offices. So, Sammy Congo, listen, I'm going to tell people what Twin used to tell, what he gave you the motto: if you got to go, go Congo. Lord, I just thank you. I just thank you. I just thank you. We are born to serve. Okay. So, a couple announcements. Let me get them out the way, right? So I did do two things that I needed to do yesterday. I did send an email out to the existing leadership of CCC and its board members, asking them to step down, to submit their resignation letter, because we have found some people who were trained, molded, and shaped by Twin who are doing some awesome things. And so James Turner of Reach Gospel Radio is willing to serve as our president. We have Jim Qualls, who is willing to serve as our vice president. We have Marvin Couch. He will be serving as a board member, and we have others to join. On our advisory board, we will have Larry Carter, Sammy Congo, even Dennis from Channel 28. See, we got to keep this thing moving and going. I will say, because of the inability for people, for whatever reason, to put forth the effort that is needed to give homage to this great man that helped a lot of public officials get elected, that helped a lot of family members and youth and seniors, right, to provide them with all the encouragement and support, only to make the positive outshine the negative. And so the buck stops here. I was passed the torch and given the title and voted in as the executive director of CCC. And Don Thomas of DFAM Films, right, was elected the director of operations and productions. So we have waited alongside on the line for a while, and it's time to kind of like push this thing forward. And so we've already taped a few of our showings that will be coming up during the month of August. August Quarterly is doing a tribute to Twin on behalf of his many, many, many years of unconditional service to the community. And it included everybody, right? From the drug addict to the president, from the vice president down to the homeless person. So when you talk about Twin, he was all about the people. So I must give homage to the man who God prepared to train, teach, right? And prepare me to sit before you today, Dr. Benjamin Twin B. Brown. And so let me show his picture. All right, where are you? Come on, come on, come on. Let me show his picture. Where you at? All right, come on. So this is what I mean by giving homage to where it is due. So I want to thank Benjamin Twin B. Brown once again for passing the torch on to me. And I just thank him for all that he has done. And we're looking forward to the launch of his book by Dr. Sharon Burton that's coming out in the fall. And we're going to get things back on the right track, back on the spiritual track, and we're going to keep this train moving, okay? And so thank you for allowing me to make that announcement, right? The next and final announcement I want to make is, many of you know, my niece slash sister service, Helen Sabrina Hall, is this Saturday. And if you have been a follower of me, if you have enjoyed my testimony and have been inspired by it, I'm letting you know that I need you. I need you. I do. I need you. I need to see your face. I definitely need a hug. I definitely need a hug. If you don't do anything else, come by on Saturday between noon and 3 and just give me a hug. Just give me a hug and let me give you one of my hugs that you will never, ever, ever forget. And so again, my service for my niece slash Helen is this Saturday at Canaan Baptist Church, 3011 Newcastle Avenue, right next to the Bolorama and across the street from the Route 9 library, okay? The memorial service starts at noon, ends at 1, and the repast is from 1 to 3. We have a special guest who will be sharing some spiritual songs in a rap form, and that's my buddy AJ Hardy. Morning Coffee with AJ. And I know my sister, my mentor, Jay Macklin, will also be in the house, because if she can't, that means there's something that's holding her back. But other than that, I know she will be there. If not, she will send her blessings to me. So, but I want you, I'm asking you. If you're in the surrounding areas, tri-state area, right, please stop at Canaan Baptist Church. Let me see who you are. Let me know if you have been inspired by anything that I've said or shared with you. And most importantly, I could use a hug. Yes, I could use a hug, right? So anytime you see me share some tears, they will always be tears of joy, okay? So see you Saturday, God willing. And if not, thank you for your prayers and thank you for your support. All right, so let's get to the topic today. All right, y'all ready? Now, some of you are not gonna, I'm not gonna say like this topic, but you probably never even thought about it, right? And so when we are ignorant to some things and the benefits of those things that we are ignorant of, when someone brings them to our attention. Good morning, good morning, good morning, the real Netta. When we um, are receptive to new information that we are ignorant about, you never know how that is going to impact your life and affect you spiritually. Okay, and so that's what was my experience when my God, who I didn't know 34 plus years ago, but underneath that car, I did not understand the road of spiritual recovery. Now, I know what it is to recover from an operation, right? To recover from a scratch or a sore, but I didn't understand the spiritual recovery of my life, of my spirit, right? I had no clue, which is designed that way, I've learned, because the fact that we are born into a sinful world and born with a sinful nature, that is to feed the flesh, that is to feed the physical, all right? And so I've learned through my 12-step program of Alcoholics Anonymous and other spiritual tools that this journey here on earth, right? Life deals us a hand, and because of the conditioning and because of the domestication that the Ruiz family talks about in the five agreement, we are taught what to say. We are taught how to act. We are taught what to believe. We are taught, we are taught, we are taught. So when we capture the attention of an infant, a child, we are teaching them what we want them to learn. And then society has a way of doing the same thing, TV, media, right? Everything is being absorbed because it's catching our attention. And therefore, we are attracted to what we have been taught. Now, right, wrong, or indifferent, we don't know. We're just like a sponge absorbing everything. So for me, I've learned that everything that happened to me was waiting for me. Everything that will happen to me is waiting for me. Everything that I am presently going through, right, has been waiting for me, right? Because I now apply spiritual tools and resources and principles to all earthly matters because of this spiritual recovery process. Free from recovery, emerge empowered to give hope to others, help others prosper equally. Okay. And so today's topic is a very interesting one because it challenges us to be honest with ourselves. It challenges us to be willing, right, to acknowledge our wrongs, to acknowledge the harm we have caused ourselves and particularly others, right? And so, have you ever, and I'm sure you have, deliberately harmed somebody, deliberately told a lie on somebody, deliberately set up somebody, deliberately gossip about somebody? I'm sure every human being has in one way, shape, form, or fashion. Because if you didn't, then you are not of this earth. Okay? I'm just going to say it, right? So, through our journey of domestication, we've learned all those negative things, and we've also learned some positive things. But our journey towards life is to go through life and be drawn and attracted to the spiritual realm of life, of our existence, but we don't know that. So it's through trials and tribulations that we learn the need for the thirst and the hunger for a spiritual awakening, a spiritual experience that will bring about unlimited amount of spiritual breakthroughs. And so that breakthrough for me was underneath that parked car, which was a spiritual experience, definitely, which was a spiritual awakening, absolutely, but it brought about spiritual breakthroughs. Okay. And so now that I've been in this process for 34 plus years, one day at a time, and I learned that my God is on sacred time, not secular time. So therefore, it doesn't matter. It's never, ever too late. All we have is this day. All we have is this moment that we are engaging right now. So are you willing to close your human ear and open up your spiritual ear? Are you willing to close your human eyes and open up your spiritual eyes? Are you willing to close down your self-centered heart and open up your heart of love that is based and should be based on unconditional love? Okay, so are you ready? All right. And so when we look at the opportunity to go back and correct that wrong that we did to somebody in one way, shape, form, or fashion, until we do that, believe it or not, it haunts us. Maybe not right away, maybe not yesterday, maybe, but somewhere in your spirit, as we grow spiritually, you'll say, I shouldn't have said that to her. Mm, I shouldn't have talked to her about that. Let me give you an example, right? So I tell you, I'm transparent and authentic, right? And so I've been working for Divine Light, and we are preparing for our audit today here in Wilmington, Delaware. And my regional director, I call her C. Well, Cecilia. Yeah, anybody and everybody should know her, particularly in the field of mental illness and substance abuse. So she's the regional director for Divine Light. And so her and I are the new kids on the block. She's been here about 4 months. I've been here about 3 months. So anyway, we've been working very closely together to help with this audit and getting things in line. And so, yes, the day before, we was talking about whose work is this, and she's doing my work, and I'm doing her work, and no, this is your work, and this and that, right? And so she came back yesterday. She said, I owe you an apology. She said, I said, you do? She said, yeah. She said, I shouldn't have said to you, this is your work. No, that bothered me. And I needed to come back and make an apology because it's our work. Something as small as that, right? Because when people put all the responsibility on you, and you did not create it, right? And but everybody and is pointing at you, but in the process of being in a 12-step program, it's a we program. It's a we program. We do this thing together. And so I acknowledge my regional director, Cecilia Velasquez, for making the apology for me. And it's called an amends of what she said and how it messed with her spirit so much that she came back the next day. And I think the second word after she said, bring me some coffee, was, I owe you an apology. And so, are you big enough? Are you honest enough? Are you woman, man enough? Are you humble enough to correct the wrong, to make an apology, to fix things that you played a part in creating? Are you? Because like many of us, those kind of thoughts haunt us, right? Particularly when you have been given some spiritual tools, resources, and principles that kind of taps on the door and says, Edwina, you that wasn't right. Edwina, you shouldn't have said that, because it is going to bother us. And when it bothers you, that means you need to do something to correct it, because you won't be able to sleep. You won't have no peace. You won't have no tranquility. I mean, the smallest of things, right? Just by her saying, oh, this is yours, this is yours, this is yours, right? She's helping me, but this is yours. I'm doing your work. In reality, we are doing the work together to help save an organization that God has developed to save the lives of those suffering from co-occurring disorders. Okay, so you got my drift. All right, so let's get into our topic today, and it is entitled, right? It is entitled Made a List. Okay, made a list. So let's see what the program has to offer. All right, let's go here. All right, so let me give you the overview first, okay, before we read it. All right, so yesterday I went through steps 1 through 7, and I emphasized step 4, where it says made a searching and fearless more inventory of ourselves. So in step 4, we were able to identify the people we had resentments against. I named my mother, my father, my siblings. I also was able to identify what that resentment was about, right? I also identified what feelings that resentment brought to my spirit. And I also shared about what part I played in getting that resentment or having that resentment that I had for years. Years. Yes, I didn't like my mother. I loved my mother, but I didn't like her. Right? I didn't like my siblings, but I loved them, but because they got too much attention of my daddy. And so I learned how to manipulate. I learned how to be deceitful. I learned how to lie, right? So that I can be the only one to get the attention of my dad. And so when I go to step 8, right? I make a list of those who I have harmed, and I have harmed my mother and my siblings just by the mere fact of holding a grudge and holding a resentment that disturbed my spirit. And I did cause harm to them in one way, shape, form, or fashion with my negative thoughts, with my behaviors, right? With my actions, right? With my attitudes, with my gossip, and all of that. So you see what I mean? So using step 4, where we identified, right, what ill feelings we have about some people, right, and what it was, right, what feelings it generated, what part did I play in it, and what kind of amends can I make, right? So step 8 is the beginning of the amend process, where we are willing to make right what we have did or said wrong in any and all shape, forms, and fashions, okay? And so the first thing that we will learn, that I learned, is that I need to make amends to myself first. Yes, on my 8-step list, I was the first on the list. We're not talking about God because we already, well, God is a whole different thing, but I needed to put myself on the top of that list first. I needed to make amends to myself. And we're going to read why it is necessary, right, to just make the list, okay? So let's go into our reading today. Okay, it says here, August the 8th, Daily Reflections made a list. Go to aa.org. Made a list of all persons we had harmed, right? It's from the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions off of page 77. And the person in recovery shares his experience, strength, and hope by saying, when I approached the 8th step, I wondered how I could list all the things that I have done to other people, since they were so many and some of them weren't alive anymore. Some of the hurts I inflicted weren't bad, but they really bothered me. The main thing to see in this step was to become willing to do whatever I had to do to make these amends to the best of my ability at that particular time. When there is a will, there is a way. So if I want to feel better, I need to unload the guilt feelings I have. A peaceful mind has no room for feelings of guilt. With the help of my higher power, if I am honest with myself, I can cleanse my mind of these feelings. All right. So you got me? All right. So let's dissect this baby after I take a drink of coffee. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. So some of us, including myself, who are in recovery, approach this step in different ways because we're all from different backgrounds, upbringings, walks of life, and whatnot. Okay, and so when we hear it says, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends, right? Became willing to make amends. So first you make a list, right, of the person you have harmed. You name that individual or that agency, right? Then you describe the situation of why you harmed that person and what way, right? And so that will help us determine what kind of amends to make, whether it's direct or indirect amends. Okay, you got that? And so once we make this list, and guess what, honey? You'll be surprised how long that list is, because we go all the way back as far as we can remember, where we have caused harm directly and or indirectly, because there are some things that we have concealed so long, secrets, right, of what we did, how we did it. We lied about this, we lied on that person, right? That stuff is buried. It ain't went nowhere until we have the willingness to set ourselves free. And if not, it will haunt us unnecessarily for a long, long time, right? And so when I made my 8-step list, we use, and they suggested that you use the 4th step as a guide, because in the 4th step, you were able to list the individuals, right? The situation, how did it affect you, right? What parts you played in it, and how can you rectify that situation? So using your 4th step with all the names and all the organizations like the IRS, the credit cards, we caused harm to those people too, right? We didn't pay our bill, we didn't pay our taxes, right? We lied to the teachers, we lied to the principals, so as much as you can remember, the slightest little thing that caused you any kind of disturbance, you need to write it down. Because if not, you're not going to be set free. All right. And so the second part, after we do the list, what the situation is or was, and what type of amends to make. Okay. So let me stick with the first part of it, of making the list. Okay. Now, in the recovery process, we have what we call sponsors who help guide us through the spiritual principles of Alcoholics Anonymous. And if you know that there are many 12-step programs that deal with many, many issues, but Alcoholics Anonymous is the founding vessel of the 12-step spiritual programs within a spiritual fellowship. That's a big difference. Not religious and not medical, okay? And so when I would go to AA meetings, because we have different meetings that talks about the steps, each step, traditions. We have a topic discussion meeting. We have the daily reflection meeting. We have all types of meetings that's all related to Alcoholics Anonymous and working this very simple program designed for complicated people. All right. We also have open meetings where anybody from the public can come. I may start that series again where I will come to you, and I do it at times at my AA 730 meeting, where if nobody's there, I go online and I share the meeting with you. And then we have closed meetings that are for alcoholics only. There we can really relax and be around individuals who really, really, really understand us, right? We practice no judging, no criticizing, all of that, because we all may have had different issues, but the common denominator was we were alcoholics, addicts, and we, in some cases, suffer from mental illness. And so the whole purpose of coming into recovery is to heal spiritually. But you, through this process, have to be willing to go back and learn what you need to unlearn in order to learn some things on a spiritual basis, right? So that you can implement now any and all things from a spiritual perspective to all these earthly matters, okay? And so when I would go to these meetings and I would hear people share how they did their 8th step. And so My sponsor at the time, bless her heart, Georgia A, here in Newark, Delaware, she would sit down and we would talk about the step and what the spiritual purpose of it is, so that we can hone in on the spiritual transformation that should take place, right? You're talking about the psychic change. And so when we talked about the eighth step, she, basically said, well, just, I remember you doing your fourth step, and you talked about people that you had harmed as a child, your mom, your dad, your siblings. As a babysitter, you molested a 5-year-old boy. You shared that you smacked the baby one time and smashed food in her face because you wanted to know what that felt like because it was done to you. And you said that you used to run behind the nuns there at 23rd and Lehigh, and you would stick pins in them. You would go to school and you would walk behind your classmates and you would stick a pin in them, right? And I'm just saying, right? So it is the truth. I'm transparent and authentic, right? Right? When your sister was running, you purposely stuck your foot out and she tripped and broke her arm, right? So any and all things that you can possibly think of, the people you have harmed in any way, shape, form, or fashion, I want you to think about that. And I want you to think about it, Weena, as your life perpetuated with all these old attitudes, ideas, and behaviors that were formulated. You begin to name some additional people, some additional organizations or agencies that you caused harm to, right? I used to cut school. I used to lie on the teacher, right? I used to go in the coat closet, right, and mess with this boy, right? I would so you get my drift, right? So what we do as children, devious things, right? And in some cases we cause some serious harms. And so we began to talk about that, and she said, well, okay, let's go into your addiction, right? In the beginning, you were a social user, a social drinker, right? You had no idea, what was coming down the pike, right? And you caused some harm. Oh, you caused some harm to some people, didn't you, Amina? Because you talked about it in your fourth step, right? You talked about the abortion you had as a prostitute and how you knew who the father was, but you didn't want to acknowledge who the father was because you was afraid of being judged and criticized by the public, particularly in that specific environment, right? So you caused harm. Yes, to that individual, to the baby, right? Okay. And so it goes on, it goes on. But here is what I'm trying to point out, right? If I'm the one who caused the harm in any way, shape, form, or fashion, I have really caused harm to myself. Did you hear what I'm saying? All the things that I said, done to people, situations, circumstances are really, as the Louise family talks about, what I did to others, I was really doing to myself. Boy, I tell you, I love AA, man. Listen, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And when the spiritual student becomes ready, the spiritual teachers will appear. So, as a result of me being the common denominator of all these harms I have caused, who should I put on the list first? Me. If I am asked to make restitution, if I am asked to ask for forgiveness, if I am asked to apologize, if I am asked to make things right, I need to begin with myself. That makes sense? That makes sense. How can I say or ask somebody for forgiveness when I haven't even forgiven myself? How can I say that I love you? And for real, I don't love myself because I don't know what love is. right? How can I say that I'm sorry for acting that way, right? When I knew better, right? Well, Edwina, if you knew better, why did you do it, right? So it starts with me and learning how to forgive myself, to learn how to address the guilt, the shame, the remorse, all the things that I did in my addiction. Oh my gosh, all the harm that I caused. Even though people cause harm to me, we ain't talking about them. We're talking about me, what I caused, what I said, right? How I behaved, right? So it has to start with me, making amends to myself first, putting myself on the list. And it says in our literature in Alcoholics Anonymous, we began to become willing to make amends the moment we join Alcoholics Anonymous. I was underneath that parked car. I'm the one who tried to commit suicide. I'm the one who had that abortion. I'm the one who neglected my children. I'm the one who lied, stole, schemed, all that. I'm the one. So, Edwina, you need to first learn how to make amends to yourself. And if making amends to yourself, right, means you ask this God that you didn't know while underneath that parked car to take you out this life or show you a better way. You was asking him to make the decision because Edwina, you was unable to. You know why? Because you didn't have the power. Okay. All right. So now that you have a better understanding by me putting myself on the list first. Okay. So let's see what this person talks about. I said we was going to dissect this baby. Okay. And so here he says here, when I approached the 8th step, I wondered how I could list all the things that I have done to other people since there were so many people and some of them weren't alive anymore. Woo, woo, woo. Okay, so this is how I always say this is where my sponsor tricked me, right? So when we were talking about the different situations and who I need to put on the list, starting with myself and who played a part in it and what part did I play in it. And so we got into a discussion about me being raped one time. I said, well, I know I ain't putting him on the list because he raped me, right? And so my sponsor said, okay, Edwina, he raped you, but what part did you play in it? Huh? Well, I was teasing him. I was flirting with him. I was acting, promiscuous. Yeah. So that's the part that I played in it, right? So I need to make amends for the part that I played in it. So Edwina, he does need to go on the list, regardless of what he done to you. You be like, what? Get that? Listen. That's why the spiritual recovery focuses on right spiritual principles, tools, and resources, because we have to be honest, we have to be transparent, we have to be authentic. So this is what she said when I was struggling with putting this person on the list, this person on the list. So here she goes. She said, Edwina, do me a favor. She said, I want you to compose 3 columns. I said, 3 columns? She said, yeah. She said, on the top of the first column, I want you to write those I am willing to make amends to. Those you are willing to make amends to. Well, I'm definitely willing to make amends to myself. I'm definitely willing to make amends to my family. I'm definitely willing to make amends to my children. So put at the top of that list those you are willing to make amends to. And when you make that list, Edwina, remember, right? What happened? What was the situation so that you can identify what type of amends you need to make, indirectly or directly. And yes, some of these people may have died. Like, for instance, my granny, right? I was so high up, I didn't even make my granny's funeral. Yes, even though she's dead and gone for years, I put her on the list as well. which is another reason why I love seniors so much, right? It's ironic how God used those things that we caused harm to and then give us the opportunity to make amends, not to that particular person, but same like people. That makes sense? Okay. And so she said, well, once you make that list of those you are willing to make amends to, she said the second column, I want you to put maybe. Maybe I will make amends to this person. Maybe I would put that credit card company on there. Maybe I would put this, that on there. Maybe. Well, you put that person or agency's name down. You again describe the situation so that you can identify what type of amends to make directly or indirectly. You got me? And so, for example, the maybe list. Well, let's see, the maybe list. Well, I remember my girlfriend and I was in elementary school, and she told me to say this word in Spanish, and I didn't know, right? And she said to say it to the teacher, right? And so when I said that word to the teacher sent me to the principal office, and I got in trouble. And so my thing was she did it, right? I don't need to make amends to her. She did it. Well, I need to make amends to her because I allowed her to influence me. I didn't know any different now, but you get my drift, right? So the maybe list, I may. So there's some question, you talk it out, you think it out, you reason it out. But if it bothers you in any way, shape, form, or fashion, that person or that agency needs to be put on that maybe list, and we need to become willing to make those amends, right? So then comes the third column. She said, yes, the third column. I say, well, what is that? She said, put on that top of the list those you will never make amends to. You will never make amends to. Mm-hmm. Put down their name or put down that agency or whatever, and put down why you feel you will never ever make amends to these people, and and let alone what kind of amends you would make on those people you will never make amends to, right? Identify it anyway. So I had a sheet of paper, several sheets of papers, right? And I had three columns: those I'm willing to make amends to, those I might make amends to, and those I will never make amends to. What did the instructions say? I'm going to see if you're going to get it. It only said, make the list. Always said she tricked me, right? I made the list. That's all the step required. I was like, wow. And it's amazing because as I began to go down the list that says I'm willing, by the time I got to the next person, I was like, ooh, that felt pretty good. So then I started going down the list of the maybes. And I went down. I was like, oh, that's not too bad. And then I got to the top of the list that says I will never make amends to these people. I wanted to be set free. I wanted to acknowledge the part I played in it. I wanted to have a peace of mind, irregardless of what they did or say to me. I played a part in it, one shape, form, or fashion. I want to be set free. So the second part of that step, it says, made a list of all persons we had harmed. You heard the word all, right? All persons we had harmed. And the second part says, and became willing to make amends to them all. Wow. What a revelation. What a spiritual awareness. What a spiritual breakthrough. What a spiritual awakening. What a spiritual experience. Here, I'm looking at this list And if I'm to make amends to anybody in any way, shape, form, or fashion, I need to begin to make amends to myself. And that's why I put myself first on the list. Okay, so let's go back to what he was saying. I got a few more minutes, y'all. All right. So he says here, so even though they're going, that's fine, right? Some of the hurts I inflicted weren't bad, but they really bothered me, huh? So how have you justified the slightest wrong? It wasn't that bad. I just told a little white lie. Yeah, but if it still bother you, come on now. You know that spirit is not going to let you sleep if you see that person. If you what? You listen, I've done some things in recovery in my 34 years, right? That's why I go back every day, every day, every day, because I am a sick person trying to get well. I'm not a bad person, but I'm a sick person trying to get well. And I remember this one time on this cruise ship, man. And I was in recovery, and this person was in the theater, and she had all this money on the floor. She had all this money on the floor, and I started scratching my head, and I was like, $100 bills, $50 bills, right? You think that spiritual thing kicked in? Oh, hell to the no. My humanness kicked in and say, get them of that money. You better get them of that money, right? That my humanness talking to me, right? And I fed right into it. Yes, I did. And this is with time in the program, right? Right. So the mere fact that I was even thinking it caused harm, let alone doing it. So I did pick up some of that money. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. And I was struggling, right? Huh? See, when the devil sets you up, he's going for the kill, right? And so my spirit was kind of, well, do I leave? Do I sit here? What do I do? So I got this money, ball of confusion, right? Knowing what I need to do, but my humanist wants to do something else. So as the lady was coming to, right, I was like, So she started looking around for her money. And I'm sitting right across from her saying, I got it, right? And she was looking, and that spirit hit me. I said, ma'am, here go your money. I said you were asleep and you was dropping money, and here's your money. Here's your money, right? I set myself free, right? But it was a struggle. I don't care what y'all say. It was a struggle, right? But I'm so glad the spirit prevailed, right? Because I knew better, right? And that our conscience won't let us sleep. But guess this is the hit, y'all. So after we went to embark off the cruise, and we went to this hotel to kind of unpack our bags, right? Guess who I ran into? That same lady. Now, suppose I would have kept that money, right? Who would I face the next day, right? I was so glad that I didn't have to face her, right? Knowing that I took her money, but was able to face her knowing that I didn't take her money. You see what I mean? You see what I mean? Oh my God, this recovery thing. Listen, I told you I'm transparent. I don't care what y'all say. And so it says here, right? The main thing to see in this amends, right? The main thing to see in this step was to become willing to do whatever I had to do to make these amends to the best of my ability at that particular time. Now, what better time that was upon me, that I had the money in my hand, right? Right, working on these spiritual principles, so they say, so I say, right? The devil say, well, you might as well take it and go here, go there, buy this, buy that. It was a lot of money, y'all. But the spirit came over me and said, no, no, this time right now. And I did it, right? Okay. So at that particular time, right? I got to go, y'all. And then it says here, right? Where there is a will, there is a way. So if I want to feel better, I need to unload the guilt feelings I have. So you better believe I felt a whole lot better, particularly the next day, and I ran back into that woman, right? A peaceful mind has no room for feelings of guilt. A peaceful mind has, you know what? And can you imagine? Wait a minute. But let me tell you this now. I will tell on myself when I do something, say something that I know I should not have done or did. Yes, I do. My AA people will let you know Edwina will tell on herself. Yes, I will. So I shared about that situation. Yes. Anything I said or do, right? I do expose it. I do not conceal it, right? And then if I do conceal it, it's not nearly as long as I would have concealed it before because the spirit is tugging at me, right? And so when I yield to the spirit, every time I do something I know I shouldn't do, right? I'll go and I'll tell my people, and then I'll make the amends that needs to be made, right? Because I've learned how to forgive myself. I've learned how to love myself. I learned how to be kind to myself. I learned how to be patient to myself. So if I learn these things for me, then I could do them for others, okay? So let me close by saying this here. It says here, right? With the help of my higher power, if I am honest with myself, I can cleanse my mind of these ill feelings. Okay, so you enjoyed that? I know I did. All right. So as a reminder, Saturday, August the 10th, come down at Canaan Baptist Church to give me a hug, to give me a smile, to come pray for me, hold my hand, let me introduce myself to you, and you introduce yourself to me. Okay, and also to thank Benjamin Trimby Brown, the late Benjamin Trimby Brown, for preparing me through God's will and him carrying out for me to sit before you and be as authentic and transparent as I possibly can be. Some people think I'm too transparent, but I don't know what that means, or too authentic. I don't know what that means, but I know I've been set free from recovery. I've emerged empowered, and I know I'm giving hope to others, help others prosper equally, at least one person. Okay, so I love you. You love me. We are one big old family with a great big hug and a kiss from me to you. Won't you say you love me too? Ooh, ooh, ooh. If it's God's will that you and I are rejoined here tomorrow, I'll be here. And I hope you will be too. But only if it's God's will. In the meantime, think about that list of people you have harmed over the years. I dare you to write them down and put the situation and decide what kind of amends you need to make to them. Okay, you have indirect amends and or direct amends. Okay, all right. So to God be the glory. I love you. Be safe. Encourage someone. Let somebody know